Hi, everybody. I'm John Self. We're so delighted you're with us today to talk about beginning your networking journey. This is one of my favorite subjects, and so I'm really thrilled that you're joining us. If you know people that might benefit from this course today, have them look at the replay at John G. Self, the Guiding Your Career page, John G. Self on YouTube, our YouTube channel. So thank you very much for attending. I hope you all had a great Christmas, a great New Year. We took some time off, but we're back now cranking out more content. Will be the normal office hours that are scheduled on Wednesdays will be Thursday at 4 this week, as I will be out of the office tomorrow. And then the office Career Live will resume Thursday at 7:30 a.m. So we're glad to have you today. Let's get busy and talk about this important part of your career. It is so very important, and I hope that you'll give us your attention and really think about this very, very carefully. People today are struggling to find a job, and these are not, we're not talking about slugs. We're talking about really good, talented people. And some are caught in the trap of we had a great career, we're really busy, we're really, really successful, and then, they made a change, and they didn't realize that the whole job market had changed, and that today it is more important than ever before, not just to have a good record, not just to have a strong resume, but you must have a strong professional network if you hope to succeed. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Some of you are very, very experienced executives and managers, but you don't know networking. You don't do it because you don't see the value, or you don't really have a vision for what it's going to do for you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And again, we're delighted you're here. And this is from the former mayor of Fort Worth, mayor, he was the county judge at the time, Mike Moncrief. And there was a very big political controversy, and you had a bunch of people digging in their heels. And Moncrief had the votes for he was an exceptional politician. And he basically told the opposition, the train is on the tracks. You're either on the train or you're on the tracks. And that's where, if you're not professionally networking, if you're really kind of trying to stay in your safe zone and do it the way you've always done it, but, apply online, it doesn't work that way anymore. It's very, very difficult. It's very, very competitive, and your odds are really, really bad online. So you need that network of people who will help you, who like you, but this takes time. You can't just lose your job and start networking. Well, you can, but you have to understand that effective networking, the kind of networking that's going to help you land that big, six-figure salary, is not going to be somebody you just meet in passing. This is going to be a nurtured relationship. LinkedIn provides you connections. What you do with those connections is really going to determine a lot of your success in the future. I heard somebody say this the other day, and I really agree. Not having a professional network is an existential threat to your career. It is a threat to your career. Don't make the mistake of being in your comfort zone and saying, it'll be okay. It always works out, because it's not going to anymore. Strategically focused networking is one of the most overlooked and consequential career management tools that there can be. I've been doing networking since really aggressively in my career since 1994. Now, we're going to talk in a few minutes about there's two different kinds of networking. You've heard the term rainmaking, but there's also the kind of networking that you need to be doing if you're really trying to build a career network, and it's a little bit different, a little bit more focused, and requires a little bit more strategy. So let's focus on that. Now, the challenges of trying to find a job, it's a jab, that's what it is. The challenges are real. I mean, they really are significant. In the last month, starting right before Christmas, after Thanksgiving, I had 2 or 3 people tell me that they had been working so hard to find a job, but they were worried about their ability to pay rent. Right before Christmas, a new client came in to our panel, and she said, I'm got maybe 1 or 2 or 3 more months of rent, but after that, I don't have much of a family. They're not in a position to help me. I don't know where I will go. I'm scared to death of being homeless. You don't ever want to be in that situation again. Now, there are no guarantees in life, but I guarantee you this. If you build a professional network, there will be people there to support you if that network is built with authenticity, and if that network is built with sincerity and respect, and that you have not a connection, but a relationship. That's what the target is. You do not want to find yourself on the street with your kids. There's nothing any sadder than this. And it doesn't have to come to this. So just because you're struggling right now doesn't mean you're a bad leader or a bad executive. It means you got caught in a pretty dramatic change that all of us could see, but we're understanding the implications every day. We get a little deeper sense of what's really happening and what's going to be necessary for the future if you hope to survive. Now, if you haven't been in the job market in the last 5 years, shocker, it's time you're going to be really just flabbergasted. That is one of the most common comments that I get from new clients is, good Lord, I thought it was, going to be the way it always has been, but it's so different. Everything has changed. You start with, you got to understand your value. You can't even build a good resume today unless you really are focused with your value. What are you really good at? And then when you do build a resume and it's really pretty and it looks nice, you're going to have to customize it for every place you apply. Now, there are some tools out there that will allow you to help you do that, but that can get expensive after a time. Why? Because the average executive today, I saw some numbers earlier from one of my great friends, Travis Roderick, who is a super, super healthcare leader. He sent me something. He said, this is a 22 to 44 months. It was the time it takes to find a job. Well, our based on our talking to other coaches and our talking to candidates, one of the things we found is that it's not 4 to 6 or 7 months anymore. It's now 6 to 14 months, especially at the executive level. Things don't move fast, and there's a lot of competition, especially in industries like healthcare, communications, retail, and publishing, because the industry's contracted. So you have more people looking for fewer jobs. It's really incredible. You're going to have to really, really work hard if you're going to rely online. And some of you are in that position. Again, you got caught because you didn't realize how dramatic the changes are. You're going to have to apply online, or you're going to have to be really good at making really good friends fast. And it's going to take time. Anywhere between 40 and 80 applications is what I'm hearing. So one of the things, again, if you're just new to the market, 95% of online jobs use applicant tracking systems. Now, this applicant tracking is when you submit a resume online, and basically you're submitting it to the computer, not the company. There's nobody sitting there like, oh, Jim sent his resume. Man, I know Jimmy's a good guy. Nobody's there. It's your first interview. You're not there, and nobody from the employer's there. It's some code. It's algorithm. It's a computer flashing lights, and it's deciding whether you advance in the search or not. Nobody else is involved. It's the computer. And the only way the computer can make the right decision is if your resume is really focused on the job you're applying to. Really focused. It's got to be tightly focused with keywords and phrases, and it takes time to do that. I did a couple of tests the other day, and it took me 30 to 40 minutes to really do it in a good, thorough manner. So if it takes you an hour to do the application, and they want you to other stuff, and then you got to customize your resume, you're going to spend, an hour and a half for every job you apply to. And if you have to apply to 80 jobs just to get one offer, oh my God, that's a heck of an investment of time. And then you have to understand, and this is really painful and it's uncomfortable, and people are really shocked by this, but for every 10 resumes, on average, submitted for a job, 7 or 8 are never seen by a human being. They're eliminated from the system. They don't even retain them in the computer. Why? Because there's so many people applying for jobs, they know they're going to see what's fresh in the market. They don't want to tie up a lot of their memory with resumes they may never even look at again. Moreover, and this is something that's really significant, and people listen and they shake their heads and go, yeah, wow, that's impressive. It's impressive, but it's also, if you're an online applicant, it's a threat to your career. Companies are now using high-speed scanners to review thousands of LinkedIn profiles in just a matter of minutes. And this is an incredible change in the market. When I started as an executive recruiter in the early 1990s, good cow, we would have to have two kinds of candidates. There are the active candidates. Those are the candidates that knew about the job and then applied for it. They were interested that there was something they were targeting or they'd been told about it. They applied for it. And then we would also think, well, gosh, I know this person, this person, this person, maybe 10 or 12 people that we knew. We might call them to see if they have an interest, and we did it by saying, Barbara, how are you? It's been a long time since we talked. I apologize. Listen, I need to ask you a quick question. We're working on a CEO search for a 400-bed hospital. We're talking about compensation in the 500 to 600,000 range, plus a very healthy bonus. Do you know anybody that might be interested? Well, that still happens with recruiters, but those people, it's a pool. Those are called passive candidates. They weren't looking. They were too busy. They're very successful. And those are the people a lot of recruiters really like, the passive candidates, the ones that didn't even know about the job, aren't in the market, and are not applying. So companies are now using these high-speed scanners. And so the pool of passive candidates, which used to be fairly small just because we had to do it manually, now can be 200 or 300 or 400. That the additional resumes that nobody solicited, nobody submitted. And they send you a letter and say, look, we've identified you as a potential candidate for this search. Would you be interested in submitting your resume and talking to us? And you hadn't thought about it. You looked at it and go, wow, that's pretty impressive. Why not? It feels good that somebody reached out to you. It's a legitimate letter from a legitimate recruiter sent through the DM system at LinkedIn, but you still have to customize your resume. That's the bad news. Okay. I say this a lot, and the people who've really been working hard and got into the job search and didn't realize how the market had changed, they are just astounded, crushed some days. I had a friend from a former physician at the University of Texas Medical School at Houston when I was working at Herman Hospital, their teaching hospital. And Terry Satterwhite from North Carolina, and Terry said, I feel lower than hammered whale poop. Okay. And that's what happens because you get rejected. Your odds online are about 150 to 300 to 1. 150 has been the average, but now that they're using more passive candidates and sweeping through LinkedIn, the more candidates are applying. 40 to 80 submissions to get an offer if you're online. Time to hire for managers and executives is exploding, 6 to 14 months. 60 to 70% of the best jobs are not posted. They are referrals. I hope you're kind of picking up a trend here and understanding why it's so important to have people that you know and trust you who will help you help you get in the side door. And it's really your choice. It is absolutely your choice. You can go in the side door with the help of people, or you can stand in a very, very long line. I just think that's crazy. You want to have somebody who says, I know this individual, incredible CEO, built several companies, was 12 years old, was an entrepreneur on his father's ranch in Dallas. And, those are great stories and those are great people. But you know what? You have to have somebody who takes you and says to the hiring manager, you need to talk to this guy because he Okay, I hope that's better. I re-record this and have it in the YouTube play. But there's only one way to go forward today. And you can apply online, but why would you want to? I mean, you may do it for several jobs that interest you, but that cannot be your primary way to find a job. There's just too many good jobs out there that are going to be filled based on referral. So you do not need you just can't do it the way you've always done it in the past. And when you say that, people go, "Oh my God, oh really?" And then the excuses begin why they don't like that, why they cannot stand networking. I don't like being contacted. So that means that everyone is just like me. Nobody wants to be contacted. Well, that's crazy, and that's called transference. And you can't play that game and be successful. Again, as I said earlier on, in a muted state, I guess, that really all these automated changes and the rapid changes in the job market, without networking, it's really a threat to your career. I'm uncomfortable calling people I don't know. I hate it. I'd rather have a root canal. Well, okay. I've heard people say that, and I've seen people dig their heels in so deep that I never thought they'd get out again. And in the old days, you could always recover. But today, not so much. I know a lot of people who were very successful CEOs who didn't think they needed to change, didn't want to change in terms of how they managed their career, and today they're taking early retirement. And some of these people, two or three I know in for-profit industry, not-for-profit industry, were absolutely sensational leaders. I'm not going to call any names. They know who they are, but they are sensational leaders, but they did not manage their career, and because they didn't think they needed to, because they never had to do it the way you have to do it today. Their attitude is, it'll all work out. It always does. Another excuse is, I don't know how to find people to call. Why should I even bother? No one responds to your emails or calls. It's really a waste of time. Well, here's one of the problems. The way people approach networking make it a really negative experience that becomes transactional because they lack vision. Executives do not see the straight line connection between the future success, compensation, and their ability to build a strong network that's aligned with their strategic goals. I'm not talking about collecting a bunch of business cards from hospital administrators willy-nilly. That's a waste of time too. I'm talking about a strategically focused networking plan that will help you achieve your goals. Now, this is not about you. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So you can't look at it from just that respect. You're there to help other people as well. I think that when you look at networking as a transactional activity, that puts it in a very, very dark light. One of the things that I absolutely hate is cold calling. And I was a pretty successful business developer, rainmaker for several companies. And I will tell you, I hated cold calling. I've had the phone slammed in my ear. I've had people question my mother's sexual orientation and history, the trajectory of her life, if you will. And after a while, it really does get you down. And so I, absolutely, think that, I agree. Okay, let's see if it's back again. Okay, thanks, Travis. Appreciate that. They see networking as purely transactional. They don't want to do it. And the thing that really bothers them the most is rejection. None of us like rejection. Okay? Rejection is an event people want to avoid. But one of the things that I always did to help me overcome that sort of sense of cold calling that I didn't like, I would always look at my bank balance. And if it was filled with 2 or 3 big commission checks, that was a good reminder. Hey, they can't kill you. I mean, they may be rude, but you know what? When you are networking, you don't want to ever be rude to people. And I tell you, I struggle with that all the time because I get some of the most ridiculous, stupid, pestering requests that you can imagine, usually from people who want to sell something. And so when you're in my position or you're in a position as a recruiter, I mean, people are just swamping you. I've got over 13,000 connections, and I've been on LinkedIn for 19 years. I was here when I was here when I wasn't here when Reed Hoffman flipped the switch, but I was right on the front porch and came in. They started in May of 2003. I joined in January of 2004. So, that is, I'm a big believer in this, but you got to know how to use it, and you've got to be patient, and it's a tool, and there is no automated recruiting. Okay, when they started LinkedIn, they were looking at really promoting peer-to-peer networking. It was great, but now people have flooded it. There are almost 1 billion people on LinkedIn today, and the sales people, the Bitcoin, the SEO people, they all want to connect with you to sell you something. So now I send a message that says, "Why do you want to connect?" And when I don't hear a response, I know that they're not people I want to have in my network. Now, networking, this is an important idea. And people go, yeah. You're full of it. But networking can be fun because you're going to meet some interesting people that you might not have ever met. And sometimes those interesting people not only can be really hugely successful, but they can become really good, rewarding relationships. And I think that that's really important. Anyway, the other thing you get are these stupid these stupid WhatsApp and other messages. Oh, is this so and so? It's just the market's flooded, so they're flooded with Bitcoin queens, salespeople, SEO. You have to be in control of your network. Networking can be personally rewarding, potentially financially enriching. I'm telling you, if you work at it, if you have a great plan, if you focus on that plan, you don't have to be a prodigy to be a huge success. In fact, the research shows that prodigies, that is not necessarily an indication of those who are going to be extremely successful. In fact, some of the most successful people in business today were anything but a child prodigy. They were anything but a brilliant student at school. And so, you can meet some great people and learn some wonderful lessons, and it can be very, very enriching. Okay, here are the essential tools that you're really going to need. You first have to have a career plan. If you're starting to network without a career plan, that's like showing up at the airport with your family, going on vacation, and you don't know where you're going, and you go to the counter and say, "I want to buy a ticket." And I've used that illustration before because I think it's one of the best ways to say, if you don't have a plan, to quote Yogi Berra, the famous New York Yankees catchers of the 50s and 60s, if you don't know where you're going, you might end up someplace else. And I've heard Yogi add before he passed on, and you probably won't like it. Okay, so you need a career plan. The research is very clear. It's down in writing with a focused goal, with the steps in place that you have to achieve to reach that goal, you are a lot more likely to be successful than anybody else. So I get rid of that. People, if you don't respond within 30 seconds, it's either a Gen Z or a millennial. If you don't respond to a message within 30 seconds, they keep pounding away on you, trying to get you. And it's probably a fraudster trying to get information from me. So apologize. That's one of the video monitors we use to monitor our streams. So let's talk about what else you need. You need a career plan, a mission that has to have your mission, your vision, and your values. You've got to write that down. I want to do this. I want to be seen as this. I want to be this kind of individual to my employees, to my community. And I want to do all these things firmly based on these values. Write them down. If you don't write it down, it's not very meaningful. And that's just the way it is. The second thing you have to do is build a communication strategy. And that means what are you going to post? What are you trying to achieve with your posting? What will you don't want to post? We'll talk about that in a minute too. When you do post, what is the underlying message that you want to be focusing? Because you're really in what you're called foundational brand building. And it's really important to have a communication strategy that covers what you post. It covers, how you describe yourself in your presentations. It covers your career aspirations, all those things. And so when you make a post, you go, okay, is this consistent with my core values, my mission, vision, and values? Is it consistent with the tactics outlined in my comm strategy? Then you have to have a social media presence. Now, some people work for companies that really have tight hold on what you can say because for a variety of reasons, either military intelligence, they have contracts with the military, they work for some financial services company that has a corporate compliance office on steroids, or some other reason. There are not many people out there that are limited that way, but there are some. And a lot of people self-limit because they are afraid that their company may see them posting and think that they're not loyal. That's just not the case. But you really need to have a social media presence. You can't be afraid of it. The primary platform for building a network is LinkedIn still. Now, LinkedIn has not fulfilled its promise of networking, but it has been very, very powerful and profitable for, recruiting. Okay, so you need to be on LinkedIn, and you need to have a good profile. If you just have a picture or just you put your name up there and nothing else, and you have the kind of green and gray header at the top of the page, who's going to look at that, and why? It doesn't say anything about you. That is what we call you're wasting people's time when you do something like that. So you need to go into LinkedIn and you need to be all in. Now, I'm not a big fan of X, formerly known as Twitter. I was on that platform for a long time. I had a lot of followers, a lot meaning 3,000 to 5,000. That's not a lot for some influencers. But for me, my communication strategy, my mission, vision, and values, I did not want to be associated with some of the content, a lot of the content, increasingly more content on X that was inconsistent with my values, inconsistent with my beliefs. And so I just pulled out. I had not really monetized it very effectively. It was not necessarily a critical business marketing tool. It was a platform for me to distribute content, but at the end of the day, my values, my brand was more important than whatever the heck that guy is trying to accomplish. And it's his business, and he can do what he wants. And so we won't go there. But I will tell you this, when you do post and where you post, you need to be very careful that you're on a platform that's going to be, consistent with your values. Professional association membership directories are extremely valuable. Some people, when they lose their jobs, the first thing they do is cancel their ACHE membership, which then loses access to every hospital CEO's telephone number and email address in the country. Now, I know that's hard to do when you're trying to pay rent and pay the bills, but boy, you got to sit down and make hard choices. What can I do without to keep this membership? Do I really, I said that young lady that called me and was just in tears said, I canceled my cable television. I've canceled all these other things that were really part of my life. And I feel like I'm getting isolated, but I needed to do it because I needed to sustain my networking and my connections as long as I could. And that was the right choice for her. The other thing I would encourage you to look at is either Canva and paperless posts. When you see me do artwork on these presentations, that's probably, if you see maybe a picture against the skyline, that was done with Canva. It's really, really easy to use. My God, if I can do it, I may be able to find a suit and a tie that match, but, putting me in charge of design or creativity for a design, that's you're on shaky ground. So I use Canva. It's like $12 a month. There's a free version, but I use a lot of their photo stock, and so I pay for a membership. It's not that expensive. The other thing I use is paperless post. And I'm a little inconsistent with that, but it's really a great tool to build relationships. Just like Canva, you can do a one-pager, you can do paperless posts. If somebody, as a connection and you're really working on building, and it's their anniversary, or they mention it, or they talked about it when you were having coffee at the last ACHE or publishing meeting or communications meetings, and you remember that, wrote it down, and you send them a card, send it. You can send paperless post if you want to. I mean, increasingly digital cards are very acceptable. And it's a very slick process, and people don't get them all the time, so they're very impressed. So it's a high quality product that would reflect favorably on your brand. Now, networking, if it's not strategically focused, you are in trouble. And when I say strategically focused, it's got to be aligned with your brand. Why? Because there's a limited number of people that your brain can process in terms of building relationships. So I'm not in the job search business. I'm in the content marketing business. And so my connections and the way I do things are really geared toward that strategy. If you're looking for a job, you want to be very focused. You probably, don't, the more connections you have does not mean you'll have a better chance in building relationships. Choose the right people. If they're not the right people, you don't have to cut them off, but you need to find the right people and add to the network. It's got to be strategic, and you have to be ruthless about it, in terms of the discipline of being sure that you're trying to get the right people to the table. And that's what networking 3.0 is. Their old kind of network is, meet people at the deal. And that could be in Maine or places where you don't want to work and they don't have any contacts outside that area. Well, that's fine. You're friends with them, but don't depend on those people to help you find a job if you get into a bind and you have that relationship. And again, networking is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So if you lose your job and start networking tomorrow, the chances of achieving any great success are very, very limited. Because what you're doing if asking for a job is very transactional, and people do not like that, okay? And so, they don't take your call. So you want to focus not on finding a job to build a network. You have to be disciplined and focused on building a relationship. And there's a huge difference there. Okay? Now, I said earlier, it's got to be about it's got to be about how you relate with people. So when you go into this, we had a storm blow through last night, and we have high winds today, 30 or 40 miles an hour. And I think the pollen is beginning to permeate. So I apologize. It's not about you. Now, the networking is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You must promote your brand. Okay, that's essential. But you're doing it in a way that you're sharing with somebody else. You're not asking for anything. In fact, you're volunteering to help them if at all possible. The third thing is really important. You need to decide who you're going to connect with. Not because somebody made a request, because those people are out there and they have an ulterior motive for wanting to connect with you, and it's probably not in your best interest, or it's probably not mutual. They want to sell you something, okay? So you issue the invitations. Occasionally, you're going to get people who want to connect with you because they saw something you posted, but look at their profile before you say yes. If they're an SEO or a life coach or something like that, if that's something you're really interested in, fine. But you can only have get so much good out of life coaches that you don't need 20. And there are a lot of people that use LinkedIn to promote their personal services. So you don't really want to have a network loaded up with people who are only interested in their own well-being. Okay, so you want to be sure that you are posting the right people, the right things, and that you're controlling who gets in your organization. Now, another underlying thing that you need to remember is that you're the CEO of you. You are responsible for promoting your brand. Okay, nobody else is responsible unless you hire somebody to be a persona and do your social media for you. Okay, so you're responsible for your success, your plan. You are responsible for promoting your brand. Gosh, you are responsible for promoting your brand. Now, strategy-based content will enhance your efforts. And when I'm talking about strategy-based content that is supportive of what you are trying to accomplish with all your network contacts. What kind of relationship do you want to build? How do you want to connect with these people? And your content has to support that strategy. Now, your profile will open doors. So you have to have a good LinkedIn profile. If you're on Facebook, I would urge you to create a professional Facebook page and put all of your business and social networking over on Facebook, and keep your primary page for family and friends. Do not clog up your Facebook with all these invitations you're going to get, because there are a lot of people who are out there trolling for sex. They're trolling for your wallet. They're trolling for everything. So be sure you try to separate your personal Facebook page with a business or professional networking page. But your profile, that vision that you're putting out, that image you're putting out, is so important, and you really need to take care of that, and you need to have a quality profile. Now, here's where a lot of people struggle. We were not brought up to brag, and we're very uncomfortable with that. And so it's very, very difficult. And so we're almost, instead of thinking about relationships, and we hate transactional stuff, but because of our own prejudices, our own restrictions, our own biases, we make it transactional, and then we complain about it. The way you overcome this is you start off, you got to believe in yourself. Okay? The second thing you do is you got to create and share content that educates, that is engaging, that people want to read. Okay? You want to engage with your contacts. If they post something, just say, you put that the at symbol and then their name, and it'll pop up, and click that, because that'll notify them that you've said something about them. You always want to do that when you're responding to a contact or a connection that you've had established. So you've got to engage with people. And if they do something great, you want to send them a DM that says, hey, congratulations on this promotion. It looks like a great opportunity. I'll be keeping good thoughts for you and look forward to chatting with you at the next ACHE meeting or whatever association you belong to. Now, when you start off with a new contact, don't overwhelm them with DMs. I usually send a video, and I didn't rack it up today to show you because some of you've seen it before, but I didn't rack that up in the studio. But I send a video. It says, look, I'm not going to sell you anything. We're here. We produce educational content. If you're interested, you can call us. We're happy to talk to you. But you're not going to get a lot of DM, direct mail pressure from us, or direct messenger pressure from us to do this or that before midnight. All the stuff you see all the time. So we encourage people, when they get started with a new connection, use DM sparingly. Set the tone. Be complimentary, but don't then cover them up. Be authentic. Let it be natural, okay? And don't hide your talents. This is something that people do all the time. I remember growing up, my mother used to say, don't put a bushel basket over your little light because you want people to see you. And you sit there and go, wow, that's true. I certainly want that to happen. I don't want to be ignored. So, the best way not to cover yourself up is you have to have a good social media site. So, but don't let your comfort zone, please don't let your comfort zone thwart your plans, okay? You've got to move forward. Once you get started, there's no going back. Not all networking is equal. I think you kind of heard me talk a little bit about it. My network is content marketing. My networking is about promoting my career network, promoting our online courses, promoting books, promoting ideas. That's what I'm all about. Now, and I'm not in the job market, thank God. But with you, if you're not in that sort of commercial, retail sort of, I want to sell stuff, if that's not where you are, then you really need to be on the 3.0 side, and you must align your plan with align your marketing strategy with your career plan. If you have a goal to say, I want to end my career as a CEO of a technology company in the Pacific Northwest, preferably Seattle, then a lot of your networking for that line of inquiry is going to support the Northwest. It's going to support technology in and around the Seattle area. Okay, you want to connect with people in those areas. And you can track if they're, job hoppers. You don't really want to, unless they're really, really bright. You really don't want to connect with a job hopper because, they'll bump you down the road several times. You want to pick people and you look at their profile. In our do it for you product that we've just launched, that's what we do. We go in and look at the profile. We'll look at their look at their ACHE or whatever professional networking or directory they have to see where they've worked in the past, to see, is this a good match for the client? Is this something where we have an opportunity to build a relationship? So that's why you really, if you're into doing mass business, retail oriented, or selling courses, or providing advice, that's fine, and you're going to need a bigger network. But if you're really focused on job in your career, then your network needs to be focused on those people in those areas that can be really central to your growth, and where there's mutual support, mutual interest. Maybe you connect with somebody who you'd find out is not as good at something as you are. Okay, you can share some insights, share some information, look for ways to build relationships. Be, when you're networking for a job, be very focused. You're going to have people that aren't necessarily in that very rigid Northwest, or I want to work in Chicago, or I want to work in Miami, and have that sort of rigid roadway or that rigid pathway to get there. You have to have discipline, and you have to have networking connections that have become relationships along each travel route you take in order to ensure you succeed. That's extremely important. The number of contact relationships you have should not, it should be linked to your strategy. Are you commercial? Are you really trying to sell books or courses? Or are you trying to build your career? And it's a really a totally different approach. So when you build your profiles, don't get shy. This is not a time. Now, we change out our profile pictures about once every 2 to 3 months. This was done previously late October, and so we've changed it just recently. I think that's my Facebook page. And right now, if you are on my Facebook page, you're probably streaming the broadcast here. So, but if anyway, you have to be, willing to put yourself out there a bit. Okay, don't be shy. Don't cover your light up with a bushel basket. People can't find you. Now that you've seen my Facebook pages, my personal and my professional, this is my YouTube page, Guiding Your Career, and it's very clear what I do, a trusted resource for executives and managers. And we keep changing the taglines periodically to find out one that resonates more. But that's when we created a name for our page, we tried to come up with something that told people what we did and who we are. So that's my link. That's my YouTube page. Now, this is the page, again, we try to be very, very eye-catching. We try to, we're not trying to cover ourselves up. We're being a little bit, prideful of this, I guess. But this is the portal to the membership page on our online educational courses. And, we refer people to this spot frequently. So people say, okay, I will post. Oh, I don't want to. I don't know how, but I'll do it. I post? Well, first of all, you want to avoid P&R, politics and religion. There's some people that can't help it, can't handle it. I saw something the other day that was pretty outlandishly written by a former lieutenant colonel in the Army. Now, being a lieutenant colonel in the Army means that you're pretty bright and you did a good job and you knew how to do just a good enough job to get up in rank and go to the next place. And but he had this long thing about the presidential race, and it was from my perspective, it was laughable. I heard somebody describe that race the other day as an Oscar Wilde line, which is probably the best way if you're going to talk about politics, to use somebody's line and make a veiled reference that it was the unimaginable chasing the unedible. Anyway, when you start posting, you want to use articles from professional journals or news feeds. Now, you don't want to use articles from certain newspapers like the Wall Street Journal, even though they're encouraging you to share that with the people. They're still going to block them from seeing the content until they subscribe. So don't be one of don't be an unknowing shill for Rupert Murdoch. And, Just know that site, Modern Healthcare, is pretty rigid. The Washington Post, it has some flexibility, but I usually just copy the article to PDF and share it with people that way. But you want to be sure that you're posting. Another site, if you're in healthcare, is the Kaiser News Feed. They have a lot of stuff that they aggregate from other sources outside their particular copyright restrictions, and so you are able then to post that story, give Kaiser the credit. I mean, why not? But you can still get access, and it won't be blocked by a paywall, which is the most important thing. Okay, this is an area where people really get frustrated. You absolutely have to invest time every week. And I try to soft sell this sometimes so that people don't go screaming down the street with their hair on fire. But let me just be perfectly honest. If you're not investing in this, I'm not sure why we're being muted. I think it's just a technical problem with the stream service today. I like StreamYard, but they do occasionally have some glitches. And I'm not even touching the microphone. So thanks, Peter. My friend Peter Piccinini up in Monmouth Beach is giving me the thumbs up that you can hear me again. Some people say, "Oh, he's muted." Thank God. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about, you got to do it. And a lot of people, they say, well, I don't know, I'm going to think about it, and I don't want to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes when you post. Most are going to be forgotten because they're minor, silly things. They're more important to your ego than anything else. You've got to invest time each week. I said, I don't know when we lost sound. You've got to do it every week. If you don't, you're asking for trouble with your career. Now, baby steps are okay. Maybe you don't want to, break out boldly. Baby steps are okay as long as they're outside your safe zone. Okay? And action versus perfection. You will make mistakes, as I said. The vast majority are minor and are quickly forgotten if they're seen at all. People are just overwhelmed with information, and which is another thing. When you start talking about posting, you want to post something that gets people's attention, that's relevant. Okay? We have a product called Done For You, and I'm not selling anything today. I'm going to tell you what's in it. I'm not going to say anything else about it. If you want some information, you can talk to me. But this is where we help you execute your networking strategy. Now, we can't do the one-on-one conversations. You still have to do those. But what we do is come in and develop a VBS for an individual. We write their career draft plan so that they can look at it. And we will, quite frankly, we're going to push their boundaries. My goal in life is to get the people the hell out of their safe zone, because that's what safe zone wrecks more careers and limits more great potential. And so when I do a career plan, I interview the person for a couple of hours and we talk about what you really want to do. And when you ask that question to people, I mean, good Lord, they almost become tongue-tied, it's a great exercise, because you're basically saying, in your wildest dreams, what is your greatest passion? Forget about responsibility. Forget about all those things that you will use to, keep yourself in the safe zone. What do you really want to do? What do you really want to do? Okay, we're going to write it down, because if you don't want to, this DFY program is expensive enough that if you're not planning to do any of this, don't waste your money. The next thing we do is develop a comm strategy, and all of these things we're doing in consultation, in collaboration with you. And you're clearly making the final decisions on what you want specifically, but we're putting all this together in writing. We establish a posting strategy. We set parameters for what we can post, and then we're going to have your password and we will 2 to 3 or 4 times a week, depending on what you're trying to achieve. We will be posting content several times a day with your name. So your name's going to pop up, and it'll be articles that we think are interesting that relate to your industry or something that maybe your passion. I interviewed a guy the other day, and we were trying to get him ready to take over as assistant manager for a large communications company's retail, one of their busiest retail outlets. And that was the next step up in his career. Now they've decided we're going to put it on hold. Well, his first response was, well, hell, I'm out of here. And so, I said, well, but he said, but I got to take care of my mom and dad. And so I basically said, what's your passion? He said, I really want to be a photographer. I want to be able to take great pictures that people want to buy. I said, great. You can start that today. Doesn't cost you a lot. You can get a YouTube channel page, and you can use your computer and put together, a slideshow with some of your artwork, your pictures, put some music behind it, and start promoting your brand. And it takes time. It does take time, but that's something you can do on the side. And if you do it right, it's nobody can do anything about it. So it's a good way to make a change in your life if you're unhappy. But but you have to understand, media is becoming increasingly important in networking. Okay, we're going to research recommended connections. You say, okay, I want to be, these are the options. If anything happens to me in the next 5 years, this is where I want to try to work. I want to be in Miami or in South Florida. I want to be in Houston around the medical center. I love New Mexico. I'd love to have an opportunity there. We may look at 2 or 3 targeted areas if you suddenly got laid off, or if you said, okay, next step up, this is where I'd like to live. The family we've all talked about. So we help you start building connections around targeted organizations in targeted areas to help you achieve your goal. And then we will interact with the connections under your persona. It won't be John's self. It'll be you, your face, and we're going to know what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with. So we're not going to get too far building relationships, because that can get into trouble. We know where you have to cut everything off. But what we're going to do is set up a basic social media networking process for you, and for 6 months, that's the term of the contract. We can go longer if you want, but that's a typical contract. And so that you can take it over, and all of the hard work of a lot of the initial writing, a lot of thinking this through, we help you get that done. So that's what a done for you project is, and that's a new offering for our company. So I hope that's helpful information to you. I want to apologize for all the technical problems. We did several streams last week that just went off like a hitch, and today it seems like we've had a lot of issues pop up, and I'm not sure why. Thank you all for joining us. Travis Roderick, it's good to hear from you. Peter Piccinini and others that I don't know. Those are 2 great people that I do know, and really bright, interesting people. So I'm very lucky to do what I do, because I get to hang out with bright, interesting people. You can build a network. You can do this, okay? And it just requires you to get outside your safe zone and take the baby steps, and we can help you do that if you need that kind of encouragement. But please know this, that in the future, if you're having trouble finding a job now, and there are people out there that are great leaders, that are great executives, and they're struggling. Why? Because they weren't able to sustain a network, because they got really busy doing their work, and they couldn't take care of their future. And so now they're in that painful process of trying to sort it through. If you think it's tough now, wait another 5 years. It's going to be, if you don't have a network, it's going to be really, really painful. It's going to be really, really career threatening. So you need to take time. The other day, somebody said, hi, John, I got that job you helped me get. And I just wanted to ask you, when should I start networking and building out my network for my next step forward? I said, yesterday. You never stop. You never stop. You might not want to do too much posting in the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month or 2 months you're on your job. But you can't wait until you get in trouble, or you can't wait until you're ready to make the next move. So what I want to tell you is, networking is an ongoing process. It is now an essential ongoing process. It's not a nice to have, it's an essential must have. So I really thank you for being with us today. This was a longer presentation, and we had technical problems, but you thank you and for helping me get through it. And I will re-record this and we'll put this up on YouTube, and I'll let everybody know when it happens. But right now, for the next day, this will be the primary. If you want to go back and look at it again, this is going to be the primary source, but I will get that redone. Thank you all for coming with us today on this journey. If you're just starting and you have questions, you can reach out to me and schedule a call at the bottom of our webpage. Talk to John. I'm happy to do that. In the meantime, have a great rest of the week. We will be off tomorrow, but we will see you Thursday morning for Career Live.